For those of you that are joining us this morning, we got a few minutes before 9 o'clock. Some of you may have heard Laura's comments, but if you have anything that you hope to learn from this morning's presentation or any questions that jump right out at you, if you can go ahead and enter those into the chat window, or if you have specific comments or something, we'll see those in the chat, and then we'll also address those towards the end. But just as we have a few minutes before 9 o'clock, if you're with us, if there's something in particular about ag lending or a question, if those of you on the line, if you utilize ag lending in any way, could you enter those into the chat window? Yes or no. Yes, I've used ag lending, or no, I have not historically, but I think I may in 2021, just to give us a better gauge of who we've got with us this morning and what our audience is. And we'll get started here in just a few minutes. We're almost at 9 o'clock. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back, VC Ag Today. It's right at 9 o'clock on this Thursday, September 17th, 2020. We're pleased to be joined again by Dr. Alex White in the Dairy Science Department at Virginia Tech. For those of you who do know Dr. White, he's referred to as Doc White several times, so we're really fortunate to have him with us this morning. Thank you for coming back, Dr. White. Topic of discussion this morning is going to be 2021, what ag lenders want to know. So we're going to have Doc White give us a little bit of insight and advice on record keeping, getting things ready as we finish up one production season here in 2020 and start looking forward to the next growing season in 2021 in production. So one or two quick housekeeping notes. As always, if you have questions or comments, if you please hold those to the end of the presentation or put those in the chat window. We'd really appreciate that. We'll address those at the end of the presentation. And everyone, it has been muted, so at the end I'll open that up and you can please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or comments. Hopefully we can facilitate a good discussion. So thank you for those that are able to join us this morning. For those that were not, hopefully you'll get this recording and still be able to get that valuable information. So without further ado, appreciate you joining us, Dr. White. Thanks again.
Certainly, Robbie. Thank you for the introduction there. Looking forward to talking to everybody today. Hopefully you can see my intro screen there. I'm getting better with Zoom after all these years. But hope everybody's staying safe, staying well, avoiding the rain that's going to be coming in here over the next couple of days. But they asked me to talk about what's going on with the ag lending arena right now. As far as, I guess the conversation started, Mike Broadus asked me what I've been hearing about the availability of credit for the upcoming year. So I kind of tailored my comments to what I see happening, what I'm hearing happening, and how to prepare for your lender. Basically, what the what information the lender's going to want to see, how you want to communicate to them to make things happen. All right, so first big question here is, will lenders have money to lend this in the upcoming production year? From all that I've heard, the answer is yes. Mike's heard different things. I have not heard anything negative or adverse about the amount of money that lenders have available to lend. Your commercial banks out there, they have a lot of cash right now. The U.S. savings rate has spiked. It's gone up. It's last I looked, it was over 25%. So there's an awful lot of money in the savings accounts, checking accounts, and so on. Lenders in turn or take that cash and lend it back out so they can make profits off of the interest margin. So we're seeing a lot of the commercial banks have a lot of cash available. And since they have cash, they are looking to make loans to good borrowers. So anybody who's in good financial condition or has their act together should not have too much trouble getting a loan. As far as which banks are going to be making loans to agriculture, the commercial banks that have long-term commitment to agriculture, I think you're going to continue to see that. The larger regional banks or national banks that you might see popping in and out of agriculture, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled back a little bit because ag's been a little bit, we haven't had the last couple of years been very good for us. So we've got commercial banks should be good with having cash. As far as Farm Credit and the Farm Service Agency, I have not heard anything to the negative side there. Farm Credit gets its funds primarily through the bond market. With the uncertainty in investments right now, I can see where the bond market is probably, people are running to safety there. So I don't foresee any problems with Farm Credit having cash to lend. And with FSA, that just depends on the government budget. I would not be surprised if that was maybe cut back a little bit. So beginning farmers, young farmers, or emergency situations, you might want to get in and talk to your FSA agent as early as you can. So if you're in good shape, should have money available. If you're not in great shape because the last few years have been tough, you can still get the loans as long as you go in and you're prepared. Okay, so here's my tips for you on getting ready to meet with your lender or what they want to know. The first tip, and this is personal versus business, I'm going to say check your credit history and check your credit score now. You want to do it at least 3 to 6 months before the loan renewal season. This way, if you find mistakes, then you have time to clean them up and hopefully it'll wash out. What I've heard is, or what I guess CNN has reported, is that 75% of credit histories have an error on them in some way, shape, or form. So you can go into annualcreditreport.com, which will lead you to the credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And on their websites, you can go ahead and clean up any mistakes that might be on there. You can also go to creditkarma.com. There's no cost for this. This provides you with your TransUnion and Equifax credit scores and credit histories. It updates pretty much every 2 weeks. So you can check this, check your credit history, see what's on there, see if all the accounts are proper, see that there's nothing negative. Pretty much every other year that I check my credit history, there's a mistake. It's got a credit card on there that's not mine, or for years there was a collection agency that kept coming after me. And I kept saying, what do I owe you? And they said, nothing. So I'm not real sure why I was on their list, but that was adverse. So just go ahead and clean these things up 3 to 6 months before renewal season. So that means now's a good time to do it. Your lenders are typically going to look at your FICO score. The credit scores you'll see from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are different. They're not exactly your FICO score. They should be relatively close, but chances are the official FICO score your lenders are going to use is going to be lower. But the magic number, if you're above 700, you should be in good shape. If you're above 650, you're going to have to work a little bit harder, but it's possible. If you're in the 600 to 650 range, you're really going to have to go in prepared with a good solid plan when you're working with your lender. So go check your credit history, make sure that everything's working or everything's clean, and make sure your credit score is in good shape. Next thing, get your sheet together, okay? With this one, go into your lender. If you go in prepared every time you go in, especially at loan renewal time, take them a balance sheet. And every year, if you take them an end of year balance sheet, now they can go ahead and make accrual adjustments to your financial statements, which gives you much more accurate information. It's going to be a much better indicator of your true profitability. It's going to wash out the tax moves that you're making at the end of the year. we've fallen into the trap. Oh, I'm going to show a profit, so I need to spend money so I don't have to pay taxes. Please remember, you've got to pay $3 to $5 to someone else to save yourself $1 in taxes. What if you paid that $1 in taxes and you took that remaining funds, the other $3 to $5, and you put it aside into your savings account, or you prepaid some of your loans? We need to have a tax strategy rather than just minimizing taxes. So go in there with the end of year balance sheet, use your net market value. So when you're putting a value on your assets, try to stay consistent from one year to the next as far as land, buildings, breeding livestock, machinery, and so on. But try and use that net market value rather than the purchase price. And again, be consistent in the way you classify your assets from year to year. This just makes the analysis of your balance sheet so much easier. So go in there with your balance sheet every year. If at the end of the year, around December, end of December, early January, put your balance sheet together at that same time every year. That's going to make your lender smile, okay? And if you go in with it and they don't have to ask, that just makes you look a lot better. The other records you're going to need to take with you, obviously they want to see your income statement. So this will be your Schedule F or your 1065. I would be wary of walking in there with a Quicken or QuickBooks income statement, because depending on how they're set up, they may not be true indicators of your profit. They may include loan payments, they may not include depreciation, but just if you walk in there prepared, have your Schedule F, your 1065, with that end of your balance sheet, now we can make the accrual adjustments and get a really good picture of your profitability. The next thing, if you want to make your lenders jump up and down and smile, walk in there with the cash flow budget. And if you want a copy of one, I've got, just email me or email Robbie or Mike or somebody, and we'll get one to you. But all it is I do it on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis. And this just lists how much cash is coming in each period, where it's coming from, how much cash is leaving each period and where it's going. And then the bottom line says, okay, what's my cash surplus or deficit each month? This is going to help you figure out your operating loan needs. Okay, so you can walk into the lender and say, I'm going to need $100,000 for my operating loan to cover my expenses. So this is going to help you figure out exactly how much you're going to need. And again, build in a fudge factor of 10 to 20%, just in case that there's some unexpected expenses. But the cash flow budget's also going to help you prepare for when you'll have cash to make down payments or capital purchases. It's going to help you figure out when you should schedule any new loan payments, or if you should refinance and reschedule your existing loan payments to periods when you have more cash available. So the cash flow budget, of the three statements I've mentioned so far, the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow budget, the cash flow budget is by far and away the most powerful one for any manager. But unfortunately, from talking with ag lenders, I think that probably less than 5% of managers actually use one or actually come in to their lender with one. So if you want to copy one of those, let me know. All you're doing is looking at your cash coming in, cash going out throughout the year. The next record I'd say to include would be enterprise budgets. Your enterprise budget is a look at the profitability of each specific portion of your farm or your business. So if we have a cow-calf operation, we run some stockers, we grow some hay, we've got some pasture. Well, there's 4 enterprises right there. You've got your pasture is one, your hay enterprise is another one, your stockers is one, and your cow-calf enterprise is going to be one. What we do is list out the expenses and the revenues that are directly related to those specific enterprises, and we can help figure out the profitability by enterprise. So by doing this, it helps us figure out what resources you're going to need. This helps you with your cash flow budget. So when do you need to buy your seed? When do you need to buy your fertilizer? When you're going to be selling your calves? So it helps you plan out your cash flow. It's going to help you with the old dreaded, should I buy my feeds or should I grow my feeds decision? So we can look at the profitability. What is my cost of production for producing hay or corn silage or whatever your homegrown feed is? It's going to allow us, what I geek out on is break-evens and sensitivity analysis. I see a couple of former students out there, they're probably cringing right now because I preach break-even and sensitivity. But an enterprise budget helps us figure out our cost of production by enterprise, as well as our break-even selling price or our break-even yield, or it helps us figure out the maximum price we can pay for our main inputs. Sensitivity analysis is nothing more than getting on your spreadsheet or getting on your budget and changing some of the key factors by 10 to 20%. So let's increase our input prices by 10 or 15 or 10 or 20% to see what the impact is. Let's decrease our yield by 20% because we had bad weather at harvest. Let's decrease our selling price because nationwide prices are going down. So this is going to help you figure out how sensitive each enterprise is to changes in the main assumptions that you make. But folks, this helps you plan your business. It helps you figure out, maybe I should get rid of this one enterprise completely. An example there, I was working with a dairy farmer a bunch of years ago, and he was making decisions based off of the Schedule F. Well, Schedule F lumps everything together. When I said, let's break this up and do enterprise budgets, we found out that in one of his enterprises, he was feeding out some calves, I guess those bull calves from the dairy. And by doing that over a 3-year period, we found out he was losing himself $30,000 per year. He didn't realize it looking at the Schedule F, but when we broke it into enterprise budgets, now it was so much more clear. So if you walk into your lender with the cash flow budget and enterprise budgets, they are going to turn cartwheels there, because this shows that you are actively or proactively planning your operation. If you want some updated budgets, unfortunately, the ones listed on the Virginia Cooperative Extension site for crops are from 2007 and 2011 for livestock, I believe. But if you go to the Ag Risk Farm Management Library at the University of Minnesota, they've got budgets, and you'll see updated budgets. I think the last years from Virginia Cooperative Extension are 2014 in that website. So that's better than 2011. So going with your balance sheet, going to income statement, impress your lenders with a cash flow budget and enterprise budgets. Next thing, do that sensitivity analysis, okay? If you can walk into your lender and say, here's what I'm planning on doing. I've calculated my cost of production and my break-even selling price. The minimum price that I need to get to cover my costs is $3.50 a bushel or $150 a hundredweight. That's going to help the lender make the decisions, okay? So go in there, do the sensitivity analysis, change your factors, but change one at a time, okay? Don't change everything at once, because that washes out. It's hard to figure out what the actual changes or impacts are going to be. But if you look at them one at a time, that's going to help you make your decisions a lot better. So quick assumptions here. Let's look at 10 to 25% change in selling prices or yields. This is going to impact your revenues. Let's look at 10 to 25% increase or change in your input prices. And then maybe a 3 to 5 point change in your interest rates. So, excuse me, a 3-point change says if you're currently at 4% annual percentage rate, what if it goes up to 7%? So I don't expect interest rates to go up that significantly here over the next year or two, but we can always do this sensitivity. And like I said, with break-even analysis, let's figure out those minimum yields, minimum prices we need to get to cover our costs, or what's the maximum input price we need to get or we can afford to pay and still cover our costs. If you really want to impress your lender, walk in there with a written marketing plan. Don't just walk in and say, okay, I'm going to buy some calves and sell them. If you can walk in and say, here's the markets that I plan to sell, or I'm going to sell through these graded sales. Here's my backup market. If I can't get into that graded sale for whatever reason, here's the next place that I'm going to market my animals or my crops. Go in there with something written down about how you plan to market it, as far as forward contracts, futures and options, niche markets, direct sales, whatever. If you do that, your lender is going to be impressed, because you're not just thinking about producing something, you're thinking about how you're going to get rid of it, how you're going to sell it and earn those revenues. So walk in there with a brief marketing plan. Lenders are not requiring this at the moment, but it's highly recommended. So this is one of the changes I've seen over the last 5 years. We don't, it used to be just, I want to borrow this money to grow these crops. Now lenders want to know a little bit more detail, how you're going to sell that. I would also impress my lender by walking in with a written risk management plan. And I'm not talking about having a 5-page, 10-page report here. Just have something written down, excuse me, that says, here's how I plan to manage my risk through the different insurances. Is it crop insurance, liability insurance, margin or revenue protection insurance? So how are you going to use insurances to cover your main risks? What are your protocols for how you're doing things on the farm or for safety issues or whatever? Do you have cash reserves? Do you have feed reserves for next year? And a big portion of this one, this again is another change that I'm starting to see, is that lenders want to know more about your transition plan. If you're thinking about bringing in the next generation, or you're thinking about getting or coming into the operation, they really want to start seeing some written plans or having that serious discussion. What are your plans for making this happen? Another thing, if you've had some rough years, which in the dairy industry, yep, you've had that for about the last, 5 years, I guess. But if you've had some tough years, you're not in the best financial shape at the moment, what I would recommend you doing is being upfront and honest with your lender and identifying those main problem areas. Okay, is it simply that the market price has been too low or below your cost of production? Then we need to look at your cost of production. Is it that your market has changed because the milk co-op hasn't or decided they're not going to take your milk anymore? You know, that's life changing there. But we need to identify what are the main problems, and then again come up with a short written plan on what is your rehab plan. How do you plan to address the problems? Basically, this shows your lender that you are aware there are issues out there and that you're being proactive, coming up with ideas or plans on how you can improve the operation or improve the situation. Basically, what it does, it shows them that you are serious about managing your business, you are serious about being one of their customers, and you're giving them another reason to want to work with you. Okay. Next big thing is go in there with a specific loan request. If you've ever worked with a lender, the one question you never ever ask them is, how much will you lend me? They're going to bite their lip and politely ask you to fill out a balance sheet and income statement and come back with a request. So if you can walk in there with a very clear, detailed, specific loan request saying, I would like to borrow, I'm looking at these operations, I'd like to borrow money for these enterprises to cover these specific costs. I'm going to need this much money, give them a specific dollar amount. And again, I usually build in a 10 to 25% fudge factor, especially for operating loans, because there's just unexpected expenses. We don't know what crop prices and input prices are going to do. And the lenders probably don't mind seeing you build in a fudge factor. So this is a way to impress them again. If you can walk in there with the break-evens and sensitivity analysis, this is going to help them make the decision. And then if you do a cash flow budget, that's going to help you figure out when or how you'll be able to repay the loan. Because you know, a lender doesn't make a loan just to keep you in business. They want to be repaid and earn a little profit off of you. But you need to be able to show them that you can pay it back. Your enterprise budgets, your cash flow budgets, your sensitivity analysis is going to really help make your case with the lender. So in, I guess, summary here, when you go to talk to your lender, if you're in good shape, you should not have a problem getting a loan in the upcoming year. I don't see any problems anyway from the main lenders. But I would still recommend getting in the habit of providing them with a year-end balance sheet, a good income statement, have that cash flow budget, go in there with enterprise budgets, some sensitivity analysis, and just be ready. If you really want to have a good relationship with your lender, that marketing plan, that risk management plan, and your rehab plan, if you're not in a great shape, is really going to be helpful for you. And again, if you're not in good shape, go in there prepared with all this information. A good rule of thumb, and I've heard lenders tell me this, is that they would rather have too much information than not enough. So when in doubt, give them the information. One guy I work with says, you know what, every financial statement, everything I have, I email to my lender, and I give them the option to delete it. But that way the lender doesn't have to come to them. sort of asking or trying to pry information out of you, you're making their life a little bit easier. Well, folks, that's what I see as far as working with your lender. Go in prepared, be ready to start adding some of these new pieces of information, such as the marketing plan, the risk management plan, that rehab plan. Okay, how are you going to address the problems you have? Excuse me. And I think you'll be in good shape. So with that, questions, comments?
Thank you, Dr. White. Appreciate you joining us this morning, as always. I see we got one question there in the chat box. What are the major changes over the last 5 years? Could you comment on that a little bit?
Okay. Yeah, as far as lending, the interaction between the lender and the borrower, what I'm seeing is they like to see better information, so higher quality information. I think the changes that are coming are the transition plan, the written marketing plan, and the risk management plan. If they have not been asking for that now, I think that over the next couple of years they will. But again, the big changes over the last 5 years, it's the quality of information. I'm seeing more and more lenders focusing on accrual adjusted statements. So whether you're doing the accrual adjustments or they're doing them, they want to make the decisions based off of the accrual statements, because that washes out the end of year tax moves. Okay, it gives you a much clearer picture of your operation. And folks, as an extension agent, as a producer, do not make long-term decisions based off of your Schedule F, because it's artificial. This is why you need to have good, solid accrual adjusted statements. And it's not hard to do. All you need is a beginning of year and end of year balance sheet. Other than that, the big changes I guess I've seen over the last 5 years, some lenders have gone to more of a technology-based lending, where you can get online, enter your main information, and then receive the loan decision back within anywhere from hours to a couple of days. So they're sort of taking a little bit of the hassle of the information collection out of you there. But again, you've got to have good information to do that. Other main changes that I've seen here over the last several years is that we're going to have, or you're seeing the main ag lenders getting more of their staff involved with the loan. Historically, what you've seen is the loan officer is the one that has the main interaction with the borrower. What I'm seeing from the Farm Credits, the First Bank and Trust, the community banks, and so on, is that they're starting to get the credit analysts, the folks in the back room that are looking at the risk associated with the loan application. They're crunching the numbers, helping make the decisions. They're getting them out there involved, or so they can see the operations. So as a borrower, you might want to have, you need that good interaction with your loan officer, but you might ask to see or invite the credit analyst out to your operation so they can get a firsthand view, learn more about you. I think that's a big change we're going to start seeing as well. I think those are the main changes that I've seen. I'm sure there's something else out there, but at the top of my head, that's what I see. Any other questions? Oh, let me throw another one in there. Another change that I've seen recently, or over the last 3, 4, 5 years, is that lenders are increasingly impressed by seeing a complete business plan for the operation. So as a plug for really good programs, Farm Credit University has has 2 programs, Ag Biz Planner and Ag Biz Basics. And what these programs do, they will hook you up with a mentor. They will help walk you through how to develop a business plan so you can plan out the future of your operation. They have face-to-face trainings. I think there's a cost involved with the programs, but if you complete it successfully, I believe you get that money back. But this is a good way to develop a business plan that looks at your strategic plan, why you're in business, look at your risk management, your labor management, your production, your financials, your marketing, and then I guess a lot more is that transition plan coming in as well. So don't be surprised if over the next 5 years, they might start to ask for a written business plan from you besides the other information. What else do you want to know? Go ahead and fire away, folks.
Any other questions or comments? If you're joining us via cell phone or landline, you need to press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. But I think everyone else that's joining us, you should have the ability to unmute through the Zoom app. So any other questions or comments for Dr. White this morning? I know I've got one question, but I'll wait until other folks have an opportunity.
How about that? I must have answered everybody's questions, Robbie. Or bored them to tears, one or the other.
Did an excellent job, Dr. White. The question that I did have, I know that you've been working a lot, real extensively with other extension agents and folks throughout the state. Do you have any presentations or recordings, Dr. White, maybe that would help some folks with some of these balance sheets and business plans, that type of thing, that maybe goes a little more in depth with some of those particular aspects that you mentioned that you think are extremely important to have in place when you go to your ag lender, some of the other reports and things like that, to give them a little bit more in-depth analysis of how to prepare that, or maybe some examples of some of those to just show the different aspects and stuff. Because I know from a personal experience, looking at some of those enterprise budgets and stuff like that, sometimes they can be a little bit daunting, and it takes a little bit of practice to make sure you can get things like they ought to be. So any advice on that as to where maybe they could find further resources for that?
Well, due to this darn COVID thing and online teaching and the hybrid courses, I'm putting together a whole lot of videos for my courses or for my students. So I can make them available to you. I don't think there's any legal issues I have to worry about on that. But so I can I'm hoping to build a library of 10 to 30-minute videos of this is how you do an enterprise budget, or this is how you use a spreadsheet to do your accrual adjustments and so on. So hopefully we'll get those built and find a way to make them available through to the extension folks. And I'm open to your suggestions on how to do that. Do you want the website? You click on my homepage at the Dairy Science program and it goes to it, or if there's a separate website on Cooperative Extension, I'd love your input on that. But yeah, so I'm building a library of those things. I just did one on economic costs, enterprise budgets, and partial budgets for a class at NC State. So after the class is over, I can make those available. I'll be doing some on balance sheets, income statements, accrual adjustments throughout the semester, especially if we go online, fully online here at Tech. Some other sources would be the Farm Credit Knowledge Center. They have an awful lot of good programs throughout the year. They've done programs. They just finished the transition planning series that was a year long, where they had people talking about taxes and business liability and family communication. They have the recordings available for that. I think there were 10 or 11 sessions. Each one was about an hour, and they've got a library of those. So the Farm Credit Knowledge Center with Farm Credit of Virginia's is a good source. When in doubt, YouTube. I hate to be sound sarcastic, I'm not. Whenever I want to learn something about Excel or some other programs, I look for a little 3 to 5 minute video on YouTube to see if that's going to answer my question. And then just look for other programs. I'm doing a program this afternoon, I think it's at lunchtime, where I'm going to walk people through extension enterprise budgets and show them how to modify them, how to do some break-even analysis with them, show them how to turn a Schedule F into enterprise budgets, or at least the prototype of that one, show them how to do accrual adjustments, how to calculate the financial ratios. It's very simple spreadsheets I've put together, but I'm more than happy to share them with you. Just let me know when or how, and we'll make her happen.
All right, this sounds great, Dr. White. That's exactly what I was asking about. I think it's always helpful to have something that can walk you through step by step on that, because I know, especially for me, it's one thing to grow it or raise it, but it's something else to do the economics behind it. So, any other questions or comments this morning for Dr. White? All right. Well, you did an excellent job, Dr. White. I don't see any more questions or comments. So thank you. Thank you again for joining us this morning. As always, it's a pleasure. And a few last comments I'll make. Stephanie has posted there in the chat window. If you are joining us, if you have not or have an opportunity, please take a few moments to complete our evaluation. Help us, make the program better, or if there's something that you want to see improvement on, or just a different topic of discussion that you're interested in, let us know. We'll be glad to do what we can to get a program on that. So thank you again for everyone that joined us this morning. Just like to take a second and thank the production team for VC Ag today. Laura Maxine, Mike Broadus, Trent Jones, Stephanie Romelchek, and myself. And thank you again for being here this morning. Next week, for those of you that aren't aware, next week is National Farm Safety Week. So we hope to have a presentation on farm safety next week, really something of great concern, especially as a lot of producers are in the field this time of year. A lot of busy season going on with fall calving on some operations, row crop harvest. So just a really prudent topic to talk on. So that's hopefully what we're going to have next week. So join us next Thursday morning right here, VC Ag Today, same link at 9 a.m. So thank you again for everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you again, Dr. White. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us.
Certainly. You guys be good, be safe. And if you have questions or if I can be of help, I'm an email away. So glad to help. So everybody take care.
Thank you, Dr. White. Take care. Hope things are well in Blacksburg.